The auctioneer's voice was a smooth, cultured purr, weaving a tale of genius and rarity around the painting on the velvet-draped easel. "And now," he said, his voice dropping to a reverent hush, "we present Lot 72, the crown jewel of our collection, the long-lost masterpiece by the celebrated artist Serafina Vance, The Last Firefly." A wave of hushed awe rippled through the opulent auction hall. In the front row, my stepmother, Diana, and her son, my stepbrother Julian, practically vibrated with greed. They were the anonymous sellers, about to become multi-millionaires. I watched the live stream from my quiet studio 1,000 miles away, a glass of wine in my hand, my heart a steady, calm drum. They thought they were selling my mother's legacy. In reality, they were the star attractions in a public execution I had orchestrated, and the masterpiece was my weapon. My mother, Serafina, was a brilliant artist, but a reclusive one. She painted for herself, not for fame. Her final and greatest work, The Last Firefly, was a breathtaking landscape that held a secret only she and I knew. She had developed a unique luminous pigment that made a single firefly in the painting seem to glow with its own inner light in the twilight. It was her soul on canvas. When she passed away, she left the painting to me, along with a small note. "Some people will only see the frame, not the art. Protect the light, my darling Alara." After her death, my father remarried Diana, a woman whose only art was the art of manipulation. She and Julian saw my mother's masterpiece not as a work of beauty, but as a stock certificate waiting to be cashed. After my father's death a few years later, their campaign of psychological warfare began. They would constantly talk about the insecurity of the house, how a painting that valuable needed professional storage. "Your mother's art is wasted on you, Ilara. You keep it hidden away. It deserves to be seen, appreciated, and insured for its proper value." They were testing the waters, trying to convince me to hand it over. I knew what they were. I knew what they would do. My mother had taught me not just how to appreciate art, but how to create it. I was a skilled art restorer, a talent I kept to myself. I knew her techniques, her pigments, her brushstrokes better than anyone. So I made a plan. I spent 6 months in my studio creating a perfect forgery of The Last Firefly. It was a flawless replica in every detail but one. I didn't have the secret luminous pigment for the firefly. Instead, I created a different kind of secret. Underneath the top layer of the landscape, I painted a message using a special thermochromatic paint I had engineered myself. It was a type of paint that was completely invisible at room temperature, but would slowly become visible, bleeding through the upper layers when exposed to sustained, intense heat, like the heat from the powerful halogen lights used at major auction houses for photography and security verification. Once the forgery was complete, I swapped it. I hung the perfect, beautiful fake in my living room and moved the real masterpiece to a secure, climate-controlled vault under a different name. Then I waited. It didn't take long. They staged a clumsy break-in one weekend while I was away. They made a show of breaking a window and rifling through a few drawers, but the only thing they took was the painting. I reported the theft to the police, playing the part of the distraught, heartbroken daughter. I knew the police would never find it, because I knew Diana and Julian weren't common thieves. They were about to launder my mother's legacy through the most prestigious auction house in the world. Which brings us back to the auction. Diana and Julian were the guests of honor, spinning a well-rehearsed lie to potential buyers about how they had rediscovered this lost masterpiece. The bidding was about to begin. As is standard procedure for a work of this magnitude, we will now illuminate the canvas for detailed inspection by our remote bidders. On cue, a bank of powerful hot lights focused on the painting. I leaned closer to my monitor. On the screen, the beautiful landscape of The Last Firefly glowed. The auctioneer opened the bidding at $5 million. A bid came instantly, then another, $6 million, $7 million. As the bids climbed, I watched the canvas. A faint discoloration began to appear in the sky above the painted trees, like a heat haze. It was the thermochromatic pigment, activating under the intense heat of the lights. Slowly, horrifically for Diana and Julian, the haze resolved itself into letters. Large, elegant, and undeniable letters began to bleed through the serene sky, completely obliterating the artwork. The first word to appear was this. The bidding slowed. A confused murmur spread through the hall. The auctioneer faltered. The next words emerged, "This is a forgery." Panic erupted. The bidding stopped entirely. On the stage, under the hot lights, the full message was now visible for the entire world to see, scrawled across the masterpiece, like a piece of artistic graffiti. "This is a forgery. The provenance is a lie. A gift from the real artist's daughter." On the live stream, I could see Diana's face. Her mask of sophisticated greed had melted into a grotesque mask of pure, abject horror. Julian looked like he was about to faint. They weren't just losing millions, they were being exposed as frauds in the most public way imaginable, in a room full of the very people they were desperate to impress. The auction was halted. Security guards surrounded the painting. The auction house's legal team descended on my screaming, hysterical stepmother. I closed my laptop and took a slow sip of wine. The next day, the story was everywhere. My stepfamily was facing a massive lawsuit from the auction house and a criminal investigation for fraud. I waited a week, then held a press conference. I stood beside the last firefly, its single point of light glowing softly. I announced I was donating the masterpiece to a public museum, ensuring my mother's legacy would be protected forever, free for everyone to see. My mother wanted to put a price tag on my mother's soul. I just made sure she was the one who paid for it.